got a gook. Put some 50 in there before we look. Good idea. Oh, that's beautiful, beautiful.
When the Americans deployed the UH1 Huey in Vietnam, its speed and altitude was supposed to protect the crew. But Vietnamese fire quickly rattled the choppers, leaving as many as 4,800 men fighting for their lives, most of these door gunners. But why did door gunners only live 14 days in Vietnam? And how did it lead to the world's first attack helicopter? The Vietnam War was famous for long-range combat. Platoons were deployed deep into enemy territory, mostly transported by helicopter. At the start of the war, the Army had one transportation vehicle, the UH1 Huey, which was essentially an aerial cargo truck. The standard crew composition usually consisted of a pilot, a co-pilot, and a crew chief, alongside infantry squads ready to be deployed into hot zones. It didn't have any gunners at the start of the war, with American commanders relying on its maneuverability, altitude gain, and speed to keep those on board safe. But there was a problem. While it was effective in the skies, the Huey was a transportation helicopter, and when it needed to drop or extract troops, it hovered down, waiting for each to either board or disembark. The few seconds of hovering don't seem like much, but it was enough for the Viet Cong to take their shot. Within days of the war erupting, the Vietnamese started tracking these helicopters. Predictable flight paths led to ambushes, and when the Huey hovered, the Viet Cong blasted them with small arms fire, downing nearly half of all helicopters deployed by the end of the war. A new plan was needed, something aimed at protecting the crew, but also one of the most dangerous jobs in the whole of Vietnam. The United States Army and Marine Corps didn't have time to build a new helicopter, yet one would be born from this massive onslaught. They took off the Huey doors, mounted an M60 machine gun to a bungee cord, and tasked the crew chief to hang out the door and return fire.
On the opposite side of the helicopter, and he and I both did the same thing. We protected the helicopter on its flanks with an M60 and our other weapons that we had.
One side of the Huey was covered, but it still didn't have a full 360-degree range of protection, leading to a fourth member being added to the crew, often called the shotgun rider. His job was to mount the M60 on the opposite side. These two men had one job: to make sure every part of the helicopter was protected, especially when deploying or extracting troops from the battlefield. Each M60 operator had about 2,000 rounds of ammunition, with dedicated training to ensure they could accurately fire from a moving chopper. Yet there was one lingering problem, something overlooked by commanders, and that is protection. While these door gunners were well equipped to fire at the enemy, many only had a standard-issue flak jacket designed to withstand fragmented shrapnel, not thousands of Viet Cong rounds hitting the chopper. Yes, more advanced chest plates, often made from ceramic, were available, but they were uncomfortable, heavy, and just too big to move around. So many door gunners simply left them behind. In essence, the only real protection a door gunner had was the skill of the pilot. How fast could he hover down and then reach altitude, or how quickly could he use the speed and maneuverability of the Huey to keep them out of harm's way? But the door gunners made a huge difference, protecting the crew with suppressing fire. They even got a few upgrades along the way. The M60 was quickly replaced by miniguns, and occasionally even the M75 40mm grenade launcher was mounted on the door frame. Yet the casualty rate of door gunners exploded. More gunners were wounded or losing their lives than the US Army could replace, with young boys often being sent to do the job. So, maintenance crews came up with a new plan, one that transformed the Huey from a transportation unit into an actual gunship. As the war persisted and the casualty rate mounted, spare weapon mounts were attached to the doors. Now many door gunners could switch between the minigun, rocket pods, and even grenade launchers. It became a formidable weapon in the sky, with unrivaled firepower, and was even being assigned a new role. Instead of carrying troops, these heavily armored UH-1B and UH-1Cs would now be used to fly ahead and clear the way for troop carriers. Within days, they became vital for clearing landing zones, supporting ground troops, and saving lives. Yet practice drills revealed a wealth of problems: the weight and size. With more weaponry added, the Huey became heavier, meaning it would use more fuel, which reduced flight times. Its hover time was significantly cut down, and maneuverability took a hit. This made it even more vulnerable to incoming enemy fire, and since it couldn't climb rapidly to altitude, anti-aircraft fire became a big problem. It worked at first, allowing for clean deployment and extraction of troops, but those doing the actual protection, the door gunners, were still dropping like flies, almost being replaced with every deployment. The United States needed something better, a chopper that didn't just do everything the Huey could do, but something faster, less exposed, with better survivability and the ability to stick around for longer. So the Cobra was born. The slim Bell UH1 Cobra first made its appearance in Vietnam on August 30th, 1967. It wasn't a novel concept, but a Frankensteined version of the Huey, using the same proven engine, transmission, and rotor system. All the excess was stripped, and a helicopter with a narrow fuselage, with reduced drag, and a smaller target profile took to the sky. The first ever attack helicopter was born. Its setup was completely different. Instead of two pilots flying side by side, both were now covered, with the gunner sitting at the front and the pilot just behind him. Its weaponry blew the Viet Cong away, featuring a rotating chin turret that mounted the 62mm minigun. Next to it, a 40mm grenade launcher, with 4 rocket pods, loaded with hydro rockets below its short wings. Later versions of the Cobra became even more impressive, with added armor plating and anti-armor missiles, while thousands of rounds of ammunition filled the turret system. This new weapon was immediately effective on the battlefield, with its pilots even being called snake drivers by those back at the base. Later, the O-6A Loach entered combat, serving in a role as a scout helicopter, and would be used as bait. The Loach flew to draw out enemy fire, before the Cobra entered the combat zone and cleared out the enemies. This allowed the Huey, carrying infantry squads, to have a clear flight path to the landing or extraction zone. The Cobra would go on to create heroes, as U.S. officer at the time, Larry L. Taylor proved. On the night of June 18, 1968, he and gunner, Warrant Officer J.O. Ratliff, was deployed to rescue a 4-man team of long-range reconnaissance patrol officers. They were surrounded by Viet Cong soldiers in Ap Go Cong, Binh Duong province. Larry and his gunner began unloading with everything they had, destroying the Viet Cong before landing his Cobra. The 4 men clung to the rocket pods beside the chopper as they flew to safety, eventually earning the Silver Star. It was later upgraded to the Medal of Honor in 2023, when it was revealed that he flew over 2,000 missions in Vietnam while being engaged by the enemy a whopping 340 times. Larry reiterated his own sacred quote, "You never leave a man on the ground behind." But this didn't stop the bloodshed faced by early door gunners on the Huey. It is estimated that between 800 and 2,700 door gunners lost their lives in Vietnam, making up about 7% of the names on the Vietnam Memorial Wall. Many of them were young kids, barely in their 20s, who paid the ultimate price for protecting U.S. troops. Essentially, 1 in every 20 would not live to tell their story, and about 25% of all helicopter crew who lost their lives in combat would be door gunners. With the lifespan of each door gunner being 14 days, it sounds scary, but it was much better than being a flamethrower on Iwo Jima. Each of these operators only had a combat lifespan of just 4 minutes. Check this video to find out why.